Donald Trump's extraordinary last-ditch efforts to reverse his election defeat have been laid bare in a recording of a phone conversation he had with officials from the state of Georgia. The US president phoned the top Republican in the state to try to coerce him into reviewing Joe Biden's win in the crucial southern swing state. Mr. Trump even suggested Georgia's Secretary of State may have committed a crime by signing off on the Biden win. Correspondent Greg Jennett joins us now from Washington. Greg, g'day. So when did Donald Trump make this phone call to Georgia and how was his intervention received there?
Well, this was an hour-long phone conversation, Joe, that took place yesterday, and it happened in the White House with Donald Trump and his Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, on one end of the line, and then on the other end of the line you had Brad Raffensperger and his legal advisor in Georgia. Now, Brad Raffensperger is the Secretary of State for Georgia. What that means is, within the state government there, he is the official who signs off, who certifies that all was conducted fairly in the November 3 election and that the 16 electoral college votes that belong to the state of Georgia were won fairly and squarely by Joe Biden. That is a move that the state of Georgia and Brad Raffensperger took several weeks ago now. But Donald Trump has been pushing back constantly, privately and publicly, lecturing the governor down in the state of Georgia, Brian Kemp, to overturn this result. Then we discover, courtesy of the Washington Post's now public recordings of this secret phone conversation yesterday, that Donald Trump was exerting all sorts of pressure, querying every aspect of the election, from machine counting of votes to double counting of votes, in this conversation with Brad Raffensperger. And it's worth bearing in mind as we listen to a part of this that it's a tight state, Georgia. Donald Trump has lost it by a margin of 11,779 votes. Now, just remember that figure as you hear Donald Trump explain to Brad Raffensperger exactly how many votes he would now like to be found or discovered to flip that state's result around.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. So tell me, Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this. Well, under law, you're not allowed to give faulty election results, okay? You're not allowed to do that, and that's what you've done. This is a faulty election result. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow, because you have a big election coming up, and because of what you've done to the president, you know, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam.
So, Greg, Donald Trump has been going on and on about this with these unfounded allegations since he lost the election. But does this kind of conversation and what he's said there take this to a new level, his efforts to get this overturned?
Well, it certainly does. It's one thing to issue tweets from your personal or official account. It's another to say things in public rallies. But to pick up the phone at the 11th hour here, Joe, and to make direct overtures, and I think it would be fair to use the word threat as well, to Brad Raffensperger, is a most extreme intervention, to say the least. And you kind of sense, as you listen to Donald Trump explaining what he wants to happen, that he is growing very, very anxious about this state in particular. Why is that so? Well, it is in and of itself only worth 16 electoral college votes, not enough to get Donald Trump a victory, not by a long shot in the presidential electoral college count anyway. But there's also another thing looming for the state of Georgia and for Donald Trump, perhaps as far as the legacy is concerned, and that is the election, a runoff election to decide the state's 2 senators, and that's happening in a little over 24 hours from now. So it's very much the centre of political attention. Much hinges on this as far as the makeup and control of the next Senate is concerned. That's why Donald Trump is going there himself in about 24 hours from now. It's also why Kamala Harris has been there today, our time, and she addressed very directly this phone call and the now leaked recording of it from the stage at her Democrat rally there in the state of Georgia.
Well, it was, yes, certainly the voice of desperation. Most certainly that. And it was a bald-faced, bold abuse of power by the President of the United States.
Yes, so Kamala Harris there, and also Joe Biden will be in the state of Georgia himself, the president-elect, tomorrow. And as I foreshadowed a moment ago, about 24 hours from now, Donald Trump is meant to, let's assume he still does, show up to hold a rally there as well on the eve of that Senate runoff election.
Members of Congress who were elected in November have all been sworn in today. What's going to happen on Thursday, Australian time, when it meets to certify Joe Biden's election victory?
Yes, so Nancy Pelosi in the House, they're going through lots of formalities today, but Nancy Pelosi has just been re-elected as Speaker, illustrating, I think, the tightened nature of the margins in the House of Representatives here. She won by just 7 votes, 216 to Kevin McCarthy's 209. So that's an important hurdle cleared. But what becomes really important on Thursday, your time, Joe, is when the House and the Senate sit as one in a joint session, and they have a pretty simple job to do, which is to certify all the results that came in from those electoral college sittings in 50 states a few weeks ago, just back in 2020. Now, that's going to happen, there's no doubt about it, but there is a reasonably large number of Republicans, both senators and representatives, who are now going to trigger formal dispute mechanisms during that sitting. They won't stop it, but they do want to make a point that they want transparency here and to put their objections on the record. So we're talking now about a dozen senators, Republican sort of diehard loyalists to Donald Trump, together with perhaps as many as 100 or more in the lower house. And a lot of this pushback and disputation is going to be against the wishes of the leadership, people like Mitch McConnell, who just wanted this to pass as simply and smoothly as possible, Joe.
And we'll be right across that here on the News Channel, and no doubt be speaking to you through that process. OK, Greg Jennett there in Washington.